Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Yeah, the only thing is, I think I took it about 8 years ago. So obviously, I cheat now with the hair color.
You haven't changed at all, man. You're like Michelle. You're like Michelle.
Yeah.
You guys are like in the land that time forgot over there. This is the Hey Ed YouTube channel, and I am not your host today, but I am still a nice guy. So today, a little bit of switching the tables for you. I am going to throw this interview over to my friend, Rupert Honeywood. Rupert, you want to say hello and take control?
Yeah. Hello, Ed. Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to turn the tables today. I'd like to think I'm a genuinely nice guy as well, although my wife would disagree, I think. But yeah. Yeah, so we've got a great topic today. And do you want to introduce your topic that we're going to talk about today?
Well, we're going to talk about a few things, if you'll allow. We're going to talk about the evil cabal and how the banking system, and how they're deathly afraid of the crypto markets as an alternative. And we're going to be talking about other related topics related to financial freedoms and the crypto markets. So we're going to cover 3 or 4 different topics, but just stay tuned. Stay around for the interview. You're gonna find a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. Well, let's start around that topic, if that's okay with you, Ed. What do you feel the advantages are of crypto versus the fiat currencies like the pound, the US dollar, the Japanese yen, so on? What are the big advantages around that?
Well, as you know, it's kind of useful to know where the term fiat comes from. Now, fiat in Latin literally means decree, right? So a fiat currency is basically money. It's money because the government says it's money. They say, "Okay, guys, this is money." So there you go. But the problem with fiat currencies as of 1971, when they removed the dollar from the gold standard, is that money has, in our case, dollar bills, they have no intrinsic value. They're the only reason they have any kind of value is because the government says that they have value, and people have to agree on something, right? In order to do commerce, okay, we have to agree that yes, those dollars or British pound, they mean something, but they're not backed by anything substantial. It's not real. It's made up. Fiat currency, in our case, dollars, the US dollar, is made up by the Federal Reserve out of thin air. And actually, it's worse than that. They do some actual printing of dollars, but now they can just do it on a computer keyboard. And they just generate money out of thin air. And that's what the banks do. Now, the banks are given charters by the Federal Reserve to generate currency out of thin air just by tapping a few things on your keyboard. Now, with cryptos, of course, you don't have that. Now, of course, the classic example would be Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is the first digital currency ever created. Now, it is kind of a misnomer because it's not really a currency. It is an asset class, right? It is categorized by all the powers be as an asset, not as a currency. So when you talk about cryptocurrency, just understand that's a little bit of a misnomer, but everyone knows, what we mean when we're talking about them. And digital currencies are a much more honest form of currency because it's all math, right? All these currencies are created with algorithms, and people can look at those algorithms. They can look at the code and decide whether it is a project they want to get behind or not. Now, Bitcoin, that's pure store of value, right? That's all. You're going to have 21 million units. That's all that it's ever going to be. Now, as we know, there is value in scarcity. And the more scarce something is, the more valuable it comes. That is why, your vintage cars become valuable. That is why baseball cards, some are more valuable than others because some are more scarce than others. And that's why Van Gogh paintings are so valuable. So there's value in scarcity. Well, there is no scarcity in fiat currencies. Now, there was some scarcity when it was tied to gold, but now it's not. Now, with cryptos, if like in Bitcoin's case, there's 21 million units, and that's all there's ever going to be, right? Okay, there's your scarcity. People know where the boundaries are. Anyway, I don't want to get too complicated here, but you have cryptocurrencies, which are a much more honest form of currency than fiat currencies that are manipulated by the big banks. I don't know if you want me to get into how banks actually work here. I don't know how much time we have.
Yeah, I was going to come into that in just a minute, actually, Ed, if that was all right. But you described cryptos as being a store of value, but yet they're so volatile. If we look at the price movement, say, of Bitcoin over the last 4 or 5 months, so why is that any more of a store of value than anything else, particularly other than the scarcity part?
Yeah, well, sure. Now, remember, as an asset, not a currency, it will have ups and downs. No matter what asset, all asset classes fluctuate, including real estate, for that matter. Now, there are people who think that you'll never lose money in real estate. Real estate is safe. Well, we all remember what happened in 2008, 2009.
Right.
Real estate, even though it is considered a conservative asset class, hey, it can be brutal at times too. Everything has cycles. That's the way the world works. Even a fiat currency, hey, our US dollar is going down in value every day, courtesy of all this printing. It's called inflation, right? Everything fluctuates. Now, it's a matter of degree, right? Now, the whole crypto world is still kind of the Wild West, right? It's still a very young industry. Okay, I mean, it's really just literally like 2 or 3 years ago, Bitcoin was still not very well known. So it's coming to the spotlight, and Bitcoin is leading the way, leading the charge with all the cryptos out there. So so because it's such a young industry, you're going to have wild fluctuations as people figure out which ones are the coins that are worthless, which ones are the good coins, and so right now the number of people, only about 3% of the world population has any involvement in cryptos at all right now. Okay, so so as you get a wider adoption throughout the world, things are going to become more standardized and things are going to smooth out. But so to answer your question, the biggest reason why you have such wild fluctuations in cryptos is because it's such a young industry and people are still kind of figuring it out. But it will settle down. And in my opinion, Bitcoin someday is going to be $1 million a coin.
Wow, that's pretty damn impressive. And with something like Bitcoin or other cryptos, you can't use that in the shops, though, can you? So what can you do if you want to be able to withdraw the real value from those Bitcoins or currencies? But what can people do to make it easily accessible?
Well, it is true that people still do commerce in fiat currencies, right? That's why I think fiat currencies are going to be around for quite a while, just for that purpose alone. When you pay your bills, you're going to be converting your cryptos into the local fiat currency. So what I think what most people who are in crypto do, even if they hate their fiat currencies, they'll keep 1 or 2 or 3 months worth of bill paying in their fiat currencies, and then as they need to, convert their cryptos into the fiat currency to pay their bills. However, people are more and more these days starting to be able to pay their their bills with their cryptocurrencies. And nowadays, it's just now starting to become a sales point, a point of pride for a company when they say, we now accept Bitcoin. We now accept whatever currency it is. It's kind of, and I think that's going to accelerate. I think as it becomes more and more adopted, you're going to see that as kind of a stamp of approval with companies. We accept this. Remember the old days when you see the commercial, they say, yeah, we accept MasterCard. We accept Visa. Well, someday it's going to be, we accept Bitcoin, or we accept this. It's going to happen. Even now, there are some companies that allow you to deposit your cryptos onto a credit card. So it acts like a prepaid card, right? And it's a Visa card or it's a MasterCard card. And you can use that card that's loaded with the cryptos to pay bills. So it is already there. But yeah, for the time being, people are still going to be using fiat currencies to, for their day-to-day.
Yeah, that's really interesting. In fact, I've just ordered mine in the last 24 hours. So
excellent.
Yeah. So hopefully, just before or after Christmas, I'll have my real crypto card, which will be a really good one. Bit of fun. Yes, a bit of fun.
Well, off camera, you got to tell me which card you got.
Yeah. No, I'll let you know. Yes. So, and then this whole thing around the banks as well, and cryptocurrencies. What the hell is going on with the banks? I think in the US and in the UK, they just seem to be becoming really hostile in this space to cryptos. What on earth is going on?
Oh boy, I'm glad you brought this one up. Our banks over here are bad, but I gotta tell you, Rupert, your banks over there seem to be like on a whole different level of bad. Because you and I have talked personally about issues that you've had with friends of yours who tried to move the money from the bank into a crypto product, right? And the banks, I couldn't believe it when you told me they're actually calling the people saying, so what are you going to do with this money? Well, first of all, as an American, my instinct is say, hey, no bleeping, it's none of your bleeping business what I'm going to do with my money. But I'm a libertarian, so I tend to be kind of a provocateur. So, but you being a good-mannered Brit, I'm sure you would never say something like that, Tim. But you told me that the banks over there are asking people, A, what are you doing with the money? And when they find out that they're putting it into a crypto product, they actually say, no, that's a scam, or that's inappropriate. We're not going to let you do it. Am I right about that?
Yeah, it's pretty damn hostile here, actually, certainly with the top 5 or 6 banks. And some of the questions they ask can be really intrusive. So certainly I know of 2 cases personally where people have had not just their withdrawals being frozen to a crypto exchange or crypto exchanges, but actually their accounts being frozen. And it was so bad that someone couldn't even draw money out of the cash machine, or having his standing orders direct debits being cancelled. He had to end up by switching to another bank. So it's an interesting space over here. But is it not very similar in the US? Do you have it?
You beat me to it. I mean, our banks are bad that way too. Any freedom-loving person in the world should be angry at that kind of a thing. It is, but let's talk about why they make such a stink about it.
Yeah.
Why should they care so much? Why are they taking it so personal that we want to move money into cryptos? Well, this is why. These banks are allowed to leverage their assets in their account in order to make money. Okay, the Federal Reserve gives these banks a charter to basically print money out of thin air, and they are required to keep some reserves at the bank, in case people want to make withdrawals, and so they have to keep reserves. But the reserve level is very small. it's only a few percentage points, I think. In the case of England, I think it's like 1% that they're required to keep, in reserves. So that's a very small. What if they're having to be an event and people want to pull their money out of the bank? I don't care what the event is. But there's some reason why people want to get their money out of the bank all at the same time. Well, the banks don't have enough cash to withstand that. So they have very small reserves. So when people start pulling their money out of the bank in order to go into the crypto space, the banks are saying, hey, listen, our reserves are tiny enough as it is. And when this money goes into the crypto space, there's an excellent chance that money is never coming back. So when their reserves are so small to begin with, every account that they lose to a crypto product, to the crypto world, hurts, and it is, I hate to, I don't be hyperbolic, but it is kind of an existential threat. That is the way these banks view the crypto industry, is as an existential threat. So, and every little account that leaves their bank makes a difference because it adds up. And I think they're looking down the road and they're thinking, geez, this could accelerate, because as of right now, only about 3% of the world population are into crypto. Well, if it hits critical mass and it accelerates, people start telling their friends and family what to do. And as people wise up about how they're being scammed in these banks, yeah, these banks are looking, a few years down the road, and they think we better put a plug in this right now. And I think that is why they've adopted these policies. And it's like it happened like overnight. It's like a memo went out to all the fellow banks. Hey guys, we got to stop this right now. So I suggest you tell people not to do it. Yeah, that's the way it feels, right? So I would someday I would love to hear from a whistleblower and hear the inside story about. But
exactly. I mean, it's certainly over here. I think it's to a degree of similarity in the US, but Binance, for example, got into difficulties with the regulators over here about 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 months ago. And as a consequence, that also gave the banks the big reason to actually start being really difficult over withdrawals to the cryptosphere. Whilst it's got a little bit better now, because I think they've ended up with a lot of very angry customers, it's interesting now that even Binance in the UK can be problematic, yet it's one of the largest crypto exchanges. I think it is the largest crypto exchange in the world. And I think in the US, you've had to create your US version of Binance, haven't you? Because some of the products are seen as being too high risk for the average person. But it's also another way of taking away people's civil liberties as well, isn't it? So we all want a choice, which is sort of really interesting. So what do you feel that people can do if they have a bad experience with a bank? If a bank won't give you your money, which obviously we've lent the banks our money, we've trusted them with it. So effectively, they're refusing to give us our money back. In fact, it's almost another form of stealing by any other name, isn't it? But now that's very, very strong, perhaps I should take that back. But it is effectively feels like that. What can people do should that actually happen? What are some of the outcomes they look to pursue?
3 words: fire your bank.
Love it.
Fire your bank. Because there are banks out there that are crypto friendly, and trust me, these guys are gaining a lot of market share right now. Some smart banks out there saying, hey, you know what, all these big banks, what are they kidding me? We're going to be crypto friendly and we're going to get a lot of free business courtesy of the way these big banks are acting. So there are plenty of banks out there that are crypto friendly. Find one of those and give them your business.
Yeah, sure. And that sounds really good. And I understand in the US, you've got a lot more banks generally per capita of the population than I think in the UK. Is that right? You have a lot of smaller independent banks in the US?
Yeah, we do. But you don't want to go to a bank just because it's a smaller bank. You want to ask them specifically, what's their policy on cryptos. Find out, ask some questions. But you know what? Word of mouth is huge. It won't take you, do a little bit of research, ask around. It won't take you long to find a nice quality crypto-friendly bank. And it might not even be a US-based bank. I found a few from other people. I think you put me on to Swissborg, which is a nice option, and as an exchange, but there's and then there's a Nexo, and there's I don't want this to be a commercial for a specific company, but it doesn't have to be US based. In my case, it doesn't have to be a US based bank. There are plenty of companies out there now that cater to multiple nationalities, right? And as long as it's got a good reputation and is solid, you don't have to keep your money in a bank in your particular country. This really is a global society now.
It's exciting. It's just a bit of a side question, really. But do you think over the next 4 or 5 years it poses a threat to, say, the US dollar or the British pound? Is it seen as potentially more stable than perhaps some of the fiat currencies?
Well, yes, but you know what? The fiat currencies have other bigger enemies than cryptos. Like in our case, the Federal Reserve and government policies. Government policies is a far bigger threat to the value of currencies than cryptos themselves. Cryptos are a big threat, but they're just alternatives to fiat currencies, right? The actual attack on the value of our fiat currencies are coming from our political class. The really bad economic, socialist, Marxist. It was Stalin, Joseph Stalin, who said, if you want to destroy a capitalist society, debauch their currency, and devalue the currency, right? Devalue the currency. Well, what's going on right now? Our currencies are being devalued by our politicians. So when I refer to these people as Marxists and communists and socialists, I'm not just being cute. These people, they are adopting communist policies, and in a lot of cases they're doing it enthusiastically. So if they don't know that they're Marxist policies, then they've got to read a book, because that's what's going on. So the threat to our fiat currencies, the big threat is coming from our policymakers. And you know what? We elected them into office. We foolishly elected them. I didn't, but some of you guys did. So,
well, not us, Chris. I'm afraid our US friends across the pond, as it were, have to take ownership for what they voted for at the end of the day. But it's an interesting topic, and obviously we've got our own challenges over here as well. And but this is a really interesting topic, and we could get into a very lively debate over this whole point. But what's really interesting is the way it's all heading as well, because in order for the whole cryptosphere to be able to operate, it has to sit on top of the blockchain. And we've got whole new realms of stuff coming through around, the metaverse now. And Zuckerberg has done his bit around it. And obviously this has been developed, it's been going on for quite a long time, but obviously our friend Zuckerberg has actually popularized the expression. So what do you feel is really happening in the blockchain space? Why is blockchain so important? And what does it do? And where does the metaverse fit in with all of this?
Boy, wow. Well, what a
That's
fantastic question. Yeah, I knew I liked you for a reason, Rupert. That's a fascinating question. And this is a topic everybody's got to learn about. This is the future, and it is here. It sounds like a movie. The future is here. This is going on right now. The blockchain is the technology upon which cryptocurrencies sit. Right, they basically provide the skeleton that allows cryptocurrencies to exist, but it doesn't stop with cryptocurrencies. Everything else. Now, you just mentioned the metaverse. Now, the metaverse was the word has been popularized since, excuse me, since Mark Zuckerberg embarrassed himself with that silly presentation a few weeks back. But he is a billionaire, he's well known, and so the word got out about the metaverse. And the metaverse, now, in case people don't know, blockchain technology is the fastest adopted technology in the history of mankind, even faster than the internet, right? And the metaverse is the next generation on top of that. Okay, so the blockchain allows that space, the metaverse. Now, the metaverse is going to allow you to do things that you right now, a lot of stuff has not been even invented. The things that people are going to be able to do. One thing, people are going to be able to conduct business on the blockchain that they couldn't do before, like privacy rights, for example. I'll give you one small example. There's this little thing called NFTs. You know what they are, right? They're some silly little, cartoon digitized picture, and that code means no one can copy that picture. It's yours. It belongs to you, right? And it's an NFT. That's oversimplified, but that's what it is, right? So someday people are going to be able to buy their houses with an NFT. And what they do, their mortgage, everything related to the mortgage is going to be on that little picture, because you're going to own that NFT. That code is going to be yours. It's going to be your code, and you're going to be the only one who has the key to it. So that's how they'll determine, ownership. So you don't have to worry. I mean, the idea of being scammed out of your house or whatever is all going to be eliminated, because you have little things like NFTs. So people are going to be conducting business worldwide anonymously. I mean, if I bought something of value and digitized it, and it doesn't have my name attached to it, but I have the code to it, I know the code word that unlocks it, and I want to sell that particular product to anyone in the world, they don't even have to know who I am, as long as, and so I sell them the code, they send me the digital currencies. So world commerce, I mean, just look out. The idea of, I mean, accounting is going to be a whole lot different, but it's going to be much more honest, because we're taking the human being out of a lot of these equations. And whenever you put human beings into equations, that's where mistakes happen, and that's where fraudulent things can happen. But when you put things inside of a code that cannot be cracked, you put it inside of a digitized code, then the code doesn't lie, and it's traceable. It's on the blockchain, right? So the blockchain is math, right? And you're taking everyday human events and you are turning it into math, which is math. Unlike what they're teaching kids in school these days, math is not subjective. The math is truth, right? So on the metaverse, there's so much. People are going to be opening up businesses inside of the metaverse. That's going to be like the virtual world. Now, this whole idea of going into a virtual world and creating a virtual society. Now, I'm not a big gamer. I don't do that kind of thing. But you don't have to be in order to take advantage of the opportunities inside of the metaverse. The metaverse, boy, that's a really big topic. It's something that it is the future. Our futures are going to be built on blockchain and the metaverse. So, so start learning about the metaverse, my friends. Anyway, talking too long again. Sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting this as well, isn't it? Because I was thinking about this the other day with someone I was speaking to who is very much an environmentalist. I was talking about some of the major cities, for example, and perhaps where they need to build a new big town or city. And there was a whole discussion going on really about how you could create effectively a virtual city or town with real people in it, which actually are, and it's then used as a base for a model of actually then building a physical city. So that perhaps the learning from that, in other words, how the traffic flows, how the cars move around, how the people look into the shop windows, where is the hub, where's the center, where should the schools be, where should the universities, all this type of stuff. And it's really interesting because you could see things where a lot of the design part of it actually is almost sort of built into the metaverse. And then you got like digital assets then, haven't you? And then the other part I was thinking about a lot is if you look at the events industry as a case of point, or look at Zoom. Now, a lot of us are pretty zoomed out these days. You know, it's a fantastic tool, but it is a 2D medium as well, isn't it? But if you could, I've seen some of the more recent events solutions, and they're trying to create, so if you go to a conference or an event, to make it much more realistic. I think there's some really interesting business applications which have come through from the metaverse, but we're really at the beginning of this, aren't we? So yeah, and then the other side of it, some of this has actually been going on for quite a while. You know, for example, is it gamification? Is it things like competitors to Spotify? You know, is it competitors to Netflix? A lot of that's going to be, first of all, sitting on the blockchain, or is sitting on the blockchain now. Is that going to end up in the, do you reckon that's going to be in the metasphere?
Oh, yes. Oh, well? Sure. Yeah. Imagine you're an artist, you're a songwriter. Okay. Now, right now, if you want to be a songwriter, you don't make very much money at all because you sell it to Apple or iPhone or whatever it is, and the royalty system is set up. You make like peanuts off of your money, so you're getting robbed. It's almost impossible these days for a young successful for a young songwriter to be successful because of copyright issues. Well, imagine if you had it set up where you attach a code to your song, right? And you get 100% of anybody who buys it directly from you. But then you have like an affiliate program, right? And you give it to that person, and you give them the right to the code to sell it. And every time they sell it, they get 20%, and you get 80%. And then they sell it, and they get 80%, you get 20%. So you're always going to get the lion's share of the revenues from that song, because there's no person in between doing copyright claims stuff. All the copyright claims are inside of that code. So nice. you control the song. So for artists, for starving, look, nobody should love blockchain and the metaverse more than artists. Right, the starving artist out there who can never make any real money because there's always some dealer who's making the real money off of selling their product. Well, now the artists can be in control of their own destiny. They can capture the big things like that. Think about the surgeons who now they can go into a virtual world, they go into a metaverse universe, and they can practice their surgeries in a real life. In a life-like setting, doing an actual surgery, doing the exact procedure they would be doing if they're alive, and without putting their life at risk. So imagine the learning possibilities there. Or how about if you have a child who is going to school at a typical American public school, and they're learning crap. You know, our education system is a really big problem over here. There, in my opinion, there's two reasons why our society has declined so much, and that is bad parenting and bad schools. We have really bad schools. Rather than teaching kids how to do math and write a proper sentence, they're teaching them which gender they might be. You know, it's ridiculous. Well, imagine if you could go into a virtual world and you can find a school that matches up with your values. And you have your child attend that school. And every day he sees the same friends, but his friends might be all over the world, right? But inside of the metaverse, they're all together, right? They can create friendships, they can learn. So I predict you're going to see schools, private schools created inside of the metaverse that's be tailor-made to particular values. If you want your kids to have a nice Catholic school education, they're going to be really nice, virtual Catholic school. If you want your kids to, whatever, a different type of school, you send them to that type of school. And those schools aren't going to be anywhere. It's going to be in the metaverse. It's going to be out there in the world. And so the imagination can take this. There's no ending to what you can do inside of the metaverse.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And we're really just at the beginning of this, aren't we? And I mean, there's a real opportunity for people like you and I to get in on this. And that sort of really leads really nicely into the next question. And we've had a bit of a discussion about this already, haven't we? About, traditionally in the old way of doing things, the rich have tended to get richer, and sadly the poor have tended to get poorer. And you could argue that the systems overall are engineered so that there's always people in the middle who are actually taking a big chunk out of it somewhere, whether it's in financial institutions, but also sort of generally. But what do you mean as well what is your opinion about this with what's happening now? Is this basically opening everything up to everybody? Or do you see a situation where perhaps regulation will come in, or governments might get in the way and say, well, actually, we don't want to upset the status quo, so they're going to try and effectively stop the democratization of wealth? First of all, what are the opportunities around? So is it really a case the rich continually get richer and the poor get poorer, or is it more one of perception at the moment?
Well, I'm glad you used that term, the democratization of wealth, because that's what is going to happen. So right now, the rich get richer. I hate to use that phrase because it's such a cliche, but it's true. They get richer because they know the game. All right, they know the banks get richer because they take in your money, and they give you your crumbs in terms of interest rate for having it in there, and then they loan out your money in high interest loans. And, well, of course, that's free money for them. That's guaranteed money for them, and so they know the game. The wealthiest people always know the game because they can afford to hire the accountants that show them the tricks to hide their money so they don't pay taxes, on their dough legally within the rules. But a lot of people out there don't know all those kind of rules to the fancy ways to make money. The wealthy, they don't make money by working for it. They figure out how to make money off of other people's money, right? Passive recurring income. That's what everyone should be focused on these days, is finding out a way to generate passive recurring income. That's what the wealthy have always done throughout time. Instead of exchanging their time for money, basically being slaves. I hate using that term, but that's we are. Most people, they exchange their time for money. The rich don't do that. The rich, they have passive recurrent. Passive means you're not working for it, right? It's coming in whether you get up in the morning or not. You could go golfing and you're still gonna make your money. So you got to find your ways to make that passive recurring income. But as people get into the metaverse, they're going to be able to open businesses that they couldn't have opened before. Right now, let's say right now you want to open up, whatever, a barbershop, a small restaurant. Hey, that takes money, right? You got to come up with the upstart money, and then you got the ongoing expenses. Well, what if you could come up with a business inside of the metaverse that doesn't require any upfront money, right? And that's what's going to happen. People are going to be creating businesses inside of the metaverse. They're going to be creating wealth for them without. I guarantee that's going to happen, and people are going to figure out ways to generate passive, recurring income inside of the metaverse. And that is, so they're not going to have to get up and go to that 9-to-5 job, and if they don't want to. People are going to be able to do what they want to do. They're going to be able to live the life they want to live it. Because financial freedom really does. We say, it's only money. Well, but money it gives you freedom.
Quite, and it means you can also help other people too, don't you? If we end up by generating wealth for ourselves, it means we can also help other people to be more successful, and we can help our own family and children to have a better future. And I think for me as well, what's really exciting about this as well is, especially, it's slightly off topic, I guess, but it's the whole breed of what are classed as social entrepreneurs as well. So, and obviously the whole democratization of wealth around the cryptosphere and what you talk about here as well is particularly important. You know, when you get up in the morning, wouldn't it be good if not only could you help the people around you, but you're also running a business for good? You could still make a good profit and run a business for good. And this whole democratization of money, where you don't need the middleman creaming the bit out all the time in the middle. So it's actually giving us a chance to democratize the whole wealth aspects. I find fascinating. And but is that going to give a much greater chance, do you think, to perhaps other countries, say like South Africa, or where they can't perhaps get bank accounts? Is it going to help people in that scenario, do you believe?
Oh boy, I'm really glad you meant it, because I meant to bring that up before in my diatribe. But yeah, the smaller countries, they're going to be raised up so much in the standard of living, with the metaverse, if they take advantage of it, right? If you live in a village somewhere in Africa, and it's way out in nowhere, and you don't have it, and you are probably going to look, as long as you can get a little phone, a $40 cell phone, and you load up the proper app, you can load your cryptocurrencies onto the phone, and now those people have to be taught how to do it, but it's not hard to do it. But the opportunity is going to be there. People in remote parts of the world are going to be able to create passive income that today they can't do.
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, poverty ought to be wiped out in the near future with the advent of blockchain and metaverse. And I think clever people, whether it's for profit or, like you said earlier, people who want to help, people who want to open charities and help people out. There are a lot of good-hearted people out there who will spread the word, not for profit, but to help other people bring it up. And that word is going to spread like wildfire. When you have an opportunity to bring someone out of poverty, and it happens to you, you're going to help your neighbor, and because you want to help your community out, it's going to happen. I mean, it's just human nature. It's going to happen. So, in theory, and when people have options, employers are going to have to be more creative about bringing people on board. That could create an issue. But I'm a capitalist, and I believe there's always, every problem has a solution, and everyone's going to going to drive things. So, but I think that the metaverse and blockchain, man, we are living. If I had this when I was 20 years old, I'd be so excited. If you're a young person out there, you probably already know about the metaverse, and blockchain. But if you don't, start learning up on it, because this is your future. Even in my case, it's my future. And I'm an old school guy. Look, I grew up with record players and cassette players and rotary phones, and we listened to the Eagles, and John Denver and Olivia Newton-John, velour shirts, bell-bottom jeans. So that's, that's me. Okay, that's the era I grew up in. And but even I can see it. This is the future. And
yeah, really exciting. I think the exciting thing is we've actually all got a chance to join it now, and I think something you and I are involved with, we're already seeing that come through and proving to be of great benefit, aren't we? Which is truly, truly exciting. But unfortunately, we can't say anything about that now, can we? But you never know. So anyway, on that particular note, I don't know about you, but I found this whole program really, really interesting. And you're a fascinating person to listen to Ed. So I can see why your videos are so popular. But if people would like to actually, find out how to contact you, what should people do if they'd like to find out more about Ed and how they can engage with you? Can you tell us more?
Yeah, well, probably the easiest way is I have a YouTube channel called Hey Ed with an exclamation mark. So do a YouTube search for Hey Ed, subscribe to my YouTube channel. And my email address is always in the comment section of every YouTube video that I do. So I think they should subscribe and put alerts so you can get and capture my other videos. I also belong to the Crypto Cartel. So if they want to reach me there, they can go to thecryptocartel.io and find us, and they can find me there. I'm pretty active in there. So yeah, pretty easy to get a hold of.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, well, you are pretty prolific out there, and you're a good guy, Ed. It's absolutely a pleasure for you to allow me to interview you on your own channel, which is very, very brave. But thank you very much for what you shared with everyone today. I'm going to certainly enjoy sharing this interview, and no doubt you will as well. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Rupert. I loved it. You're a good interviewer.
Yeah, but it's the case, I guess, it's Hey Ed over and out. Is that right? Am I stealing your lines?
That's right. You've got to do the sign out now.
Yeah, I think you've already done it. So thank you, Ed. That's been a fantastic show.
So Rupert Honeywood in London. Are you in London or are you in the suburbs?
Yeah, in the suburbs, yes. So, the suburbs, yeah.
Okay. So Rupert, and I should throw back to, so if people want to get a hold of you, how can they do it?
Yeah, very simple. I've got a very unusual spelling for my last name. So instead of the honey having an E in it, it's without the E. So it's Rupert, RUPERT, at honeywood.com. Thank you very much, Ed.
Thank you, Rupert. Hey, Merry Christmas. A few days before Christmas, so Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. And I'm not going to sing your Christmas carol. You would not want to hear me sing.
Hey, listen. I'm a big Charles Dickens fan, and I was kind of hoping to get a British, like a recitation of.
No, I'm tone deaf. You don't want.
All right. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Cheers. Take care. Bye bye.
Copy that.